So, Carin, welcome to Deaf and Talk Show and podcast. Maybe use the talk show if it all works out with the videos. Thanks for coming along. We're going to talk to you a little bit about living with closure, the book Living Closure, about various things that you're doing, in your daytime and in your nighttime activities. Well, at least to do with closure. So I don't know, do you want to give a bit of background about kind of how you got into closure and sort of what sort of things you're doing these days?
Sure. Yeah, happy to be here. So I got into closure, the years kind of go by now, but a while ago, maybe about five years ago. I was a Java developer and enjoyed working in the language, but I wanted to learn a functional language. So my two choices I wanted to look at were Clojure or Scala. And for me, I kind of approached it that I like learning a spoken language. I just wanted to be immersed in a different way of doing things. So I chose Clojure. And I had never been exposed to Lisp before. Right. So I don't know if I fell in love with like Lisp or I fell in love with Clojure, but once I saw it, there was no going back. It was so beautiful. And then of course it's practical. You can get all your Java using your Java libraries and lives on the JVM. So
you can still use the things that you were sort of used to before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks for that. You're an expert. So, Vijay.
So, this is your first EuroClojure, or have you been here before? And also, you're going to talk about Spec today, right? And can you give us some idea about what the talk is about a little bit?
Yeah, no, this is my first EuroClojure. So actually my first time in this part of the area, and it's just beautiful. So, and all the people that I've met are super nice and super smart. So it's been a great experience all around. So today I'm actually going to be talking about Spec and a couple of kind of creative experiments that I've done with it. One is with combining Spec with genetic programming, and the other is combining Spec with self-healing code. So this is like when a function gets a runtime error, if it can use Spec to sort of heal itself for that time and subsequent times. So the hope is I always love taking advantage of having a group of people interested in closure and so many smart people out there. It's great to share ideas and hopefully get people's creative juices going and inspire them to explore more with Spec.
Yeah.
So Clojure is code generating code, and now you're going to code fixing code itself. Then basically we're all done. So we don't need to write code anymore because it's going to fix itself. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so you were just saying that you joined Cognitect 1 year ago. So can you give us some insight into what kind of work you do there, and your experience with Java before, which kind of projects that you worked on?
So it's been great working for Cognitect. I work remotely, so most of the time I am working in my house, although I try to get out and about. Though there was one time during the winter. But it is a danger. You get so comfy at home because like during the winter you don't want to go out. But I realized I hadn't actually left the house for a whole week. Wow. And I was like, I really should get out. But it's a great experience. So we do consulting work. So I like that because I get to see a lot of different things. Depending on how long the project is, you get to be exposed to working with big companies or working for startups, even working for game companies, which was a bit fun. I get to do front-end Clojure script stuff, back-end stuff, and then, of course, I have to dip my toes in Java every now and then, too. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so also, as well as being a kind of consultant and a speaker, you've also written a book as well. So Living Clojure, introductory book. I remember you talking on some, I don't know if it was a speech you made or if it was a podcast, talking about the kind of motivations for it, like the storytelling. Maybe you can just recap that a little bit about why, what was the motive? Because obviously writing a book is very hard. I haven't done it, he hasn't done it. We're in awe of people that will put the effort into writing books. I think it's impressive. So what was the motivation to go through all that pain?
Well, first of all, I didn't know how hard it was.
It's like childbirth.
Yeah, I had this idea that, I write blog posts. It's not that much different, but just multiple blog posts. No, it's a lot different. But I'm glad that I went through it. But yeah, I believe that narratives or storytelling is core to our human experience, and there's been some research to back that up. So I think if you can combine telling stories with trying to teach, it hits at a different level than if you take the narrative out. So I try to incorporate some narratives whenever I'm trying to get across concepts, because I think it helps, or at least some people it resonates with. The other part for a living closure, the motivation was one night I helped organize the functional programmers group in Cincinnati. And they're not all Clojure developers. They come from all walks. And somebody had said, I had tried to learn Clojure last weekend in 2 days, and it was just too hard. I just, I read a whole book in 2 days, and I just don't get it. And I was like, well, that's like me, not exercising regularly at all, trying to run a 5K. And saying, "Oh, this is too tough. I can't run." You need to have some sort of expectation that you can't do it all at once, and that you need to slowly, especially if you're coming from a different paradigm like object oriented. It actually takes your brain time to change and time to make those new connections and start thinking and modeling the world in a different way. So I think we should set people up for this is going to be a process, and you're not going to get it all at once, and it's going to take some time.
Yeah, I think athletics is a good one in terms of getting some training, and I think other people have talked about learning a musical instrument and stuff like that, where, you can kind of make a noise pretty quickly, but actually if you want to become proficient at it or, skilled, then it's going to take a bit of practice and all those kind of things. So why do you think that Clojure, though, what is, maybe it's Lisp or something, there's something about Clojure that maybe, or FP, I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of blabbing around now, but there is some kind of mental barrier to either FP or Clojure or something where, and maybe it was like that. And I started as a C programmer and then eventually went into OO, and it took a while for me to get OO, I guess. But do you think we're going through the same barrier with FP, or is there something special about FP, or it's just something we have to go through where the programming community just has to basically get their head around it? It's a hard question.
Well,
do your best with it.
Right. So my own personal view of it is it's just the way you look around the world and you're translating problems and how you want to model the world. And that changes drastically if you look around and you see everything as objects, and or you see things as, beautiful chain data flows, just that mental representation. And I actually have a picture in my talk this afternoon. I don't know if you're familiar with the duck rabbit. Yeah. It can. It's a illusion. If you look at it one way, it looks like a duck. And if you look at it,
is it a duck-billed platypus?
If you look at it one way, it looks like a duck, and you look at it another way, it looks like a rabbit. Well, if you're so used to seeing just the duck, it's going to take you a while. But at some point, if you learn both ways of thinking, you can see both the duck and the rabbit.
Right. They coexist.
I don't know which one's the functional duck.
Well, they do say if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck. Okay. Well, okay, this is great. Any last remarks, Vijay?
So you use Emacs, right?
Oh my God.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So before we wrap up, and so
stop him now. Stop. No, I'm joking.
Anyway, apart from obviously Clojure is a big part of your working full time, you're working for Clojure stuff. So what else are you into? I see that your talks are not just technical always. They're related to something outside the general programming stuff. Like today, you're going to do the genetic programming thing. I remember there was something related to the biology stuff before. So what are your hobbies apart from writing Clojure?
Well, I really I'm a big integration proponent and integration of different disciplines into computer science and taking things from different languages and bringing it into Clojure. So that's really what kind of gets me excited when I can learn about slime mold and learn about these cool self-organizations, that all these things are just like little cells all together, but together they can self-organize themselves and really have complex behavior. And how do you then take those ideas and maybe translate them into our computer programming field? And there's all sorts of things we can learn from different fields, and that's kind of what gets me excited.
Brilliant. All right. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Carin. Okay. I think we'll stop there and.